Today's discussion is headaches.
Yep. So let's go ahead and get rolling. Thank you, Brett. Welcome our TikTok audience again, and to the folks who join us here at the Zoom for this time with the Well Wave Now community and discussions. What we're after is the objective of help people live happier, healthier lives and achieve that across the U.S. and do that in a fashion. Our role is not to replace any conventional healthcare you get, but to complement that with natural alternatives to help you succeed in achieving your health and wellness goals on that. And so we're out to kind of bring wellness to America. And as we looked at it, and while we continue this headache discussion, as we looked at it before, very common thing in the U.S. Over 15% of adults suffer from frequent headaches. So we looked at this and many causes, many that we went into a little bit before. I'm sure we'll touch on them again. But given the prevalence, and it's like the third most frequent complaint that people go to doctors with after low back pain and one other. And so we felt we wanted to continue to address this and help you bring some solutions, advice, and thoughts and techniques on and how to live optimally with them and overcome them. And so with that, we've got to do that, Breck Rice, who is the healthcare disruptor and also a very focused advocate for community wellness and delivering on the promise of improving community wellness with activity he sees has going on. And then Dr. Bob Levine, who is a renowned brain researcher and also is a leading expert in the elimination of pain without drug-free elimination of pain. And I'm Tim Daniels, expert in PEMF technology that lends itself to many applications, as well as I'm a wellness plan manager. Sake of time, think of the latter as a general contractor for your health. That same thing the general contractor does for your home is what I do on the health front for you. Okay,
Tim,
so we're gonna,
Tim,
yes,
can you just say what PEMF is in case something?
sure.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thanks for that. I've been in the PEMF so long that that live and breathe it so often that I forget that. But it stands for pulse electromagnetic field. And some people add therapy to that. That's something that's been around for a while. You're still leading edge. That works for healing, health, and performance, all in the non-invasive, non-drug fashion, with very few, if any, adverse side effects to it. So thanks, Bob, for pressing on that one. So we're going to go into the headaches, and Breck, want to start with what you talked about. We spend a lot of time on some of the natural ways to address it and to work with it. But what we also wanted to talk about, as you touched upon earlier, was what about people often turn to pills, medication to work it, and so we want to give them some thoughts and guidance and what to look out for on that. So Breck, if you'll start us out.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Tim, for letting me continue on where we left off. So we left off last week kind of discussing some of the natural remedies. We got into some of the herbs and things that and even essential oils. So we had a discussion around peppermint oil being something that can be used to eliminate headache, and if diluted down, it can be rubbed on the temple, and also lavender oil. We confirmed that was also another one that is used. And then, wanted to also touch on, we didn't get to this last week, but if you do get headaches often, it's pretty important to make sure that you keep some kind of a diary, keep a log of what time of day the headaches come on, what activities you might have been involved in, what was, was there something that was strenuous that you were doing? Is it something you even ate? Were you, in a stressful situation? Did you, have lack of sleep? What was the trigger that brought that headache on? And if you start to log that, then you can identify those triggers. And back to, what Dr. Bob Levine is an expert at, you can interrupt those triggering points and do something different to keep from getting those headaches. The spinal alignment is so key to this whole thing with your spinal nerve and your nerves and everything in your neck, back, and having good proper spinal alignment is key. So Get into some of the medications, though. Everyone's familiar with all the over-the-counter medications. I'm going to try my hardest not to mention any brand names because we don't want to get kicked off of social media here. But acetaminophen is a popular over-the-counter medication. And a lot of people that take a lot of those types of medications, generic and brand, but you need to be very aware of some of the problems with it. So if you take them too often, you can start to have some problems with your liver. So it is very hard on your liver. It can also cause rash, nausea, headaches. You can have allergic reactions sometimes as well. Number two would be the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs or NSAIDs. So those are your ibuprofens. So your IBs are, there's some popular brands out there I'm sure everybody is aware of. Also can have some issues with your stomach. You can get heartburn, even ulcers, bleeding, and even some kidney damage. So be aware of not overtaking that. Yes, Tim.
You're muted, Tim.
Yeah, you're me.
Yeah, one thing that came to mind on the NSAIDs brought back, I might have touched upon this before, when we were doing a discussion on high blood pressure and how to kind of beat that one. And for those of you, on TikTok, if you go to Breck's profile, you can find those past, you can find those past episodes you want to take a listen to them. Those of you on Zoom, if you go into my profile on LinkedIn and go down through that, you can find it. We'll also give you a YouTube link to go look at that. But what the thing that impressed upon me, I've had a family history of high blood pressure and I've been borderline for myself for a while. But despite having gone to over the years to the Stanford University medical system, University of Chicago medical system, the Yale University medical system, and a couple others that were very, very top notch, no one ever pointed out to me that a potential side effect of the NSAIDs was high blood pressure and that it could drive your blood pressure up. It wasn't until I found, a community that you serve, Breck, and work with a local pharmacist, who just in the past year or so mentioned that to me after some demo work. She said, just be careful with this, and handling your pain that way because of that high blood pressure. So I just want to point that out as additional side effect. It's not often well discussed about what those NSAIDs can do for you.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Thank you for covering that as well. And we have some great resources also in the Facebook group, the Healthcare Disruptors WellWave Now. I just put the link for everyone on Zoom. There's a couple of links in there. We'll talk about the first link a little later, which is a free health risk assessment for you. But the Facebook group, WellWave Now, Healthcare Disruptors, and those that are here live on TikTok, please just go to the link in my bio, and that link tree will have the link for Facebook. I'll put this entire list of medications that we're covering, the over-the-counter OTCs, as well as the
cardiologist
prescribed medications here. I'll put that up after this live so that you have those resources to go back to. So we've covered, the ibuprofens, some of their side effects, also naproxen. There's a very well-known over-the-counter naproxen. It's also a prescription, but there's an over-the-counter available that kind of sounds like you're alive, but it's not that. Bob's laughing at me.
That was good, Breck. That was really good.
It helps alleviate your pain sometimes. So,
Yeah.
but that's a popular naproxen that's OTC, and you can also have similar side effects: stomach pain, heartburn, ulcers, some bleeding associated with it, also dizziness and drowsiness that goes along with that. Dr. Bob.
I just want to interject here before you continue. I just want to point out that when you're talking about pharmaceuticals, you're really talking about Band-Aids. You're talking about drugs that do not really address the underlying source of any condition. They're actually going in there to help with the symptoms, and some of them are really good and some of them are really bad. So it's really important to study what are the side effects and what might you be experiencing. So I just want to let you know that pharmaceuticals are not a panacea. They can provide some benefit. You just have to be careful with them, and you have to know that they're band-aids, they're masking symptoms, and you ultimately want to get to the underlying source of whatever's going on for you. Thanks, Breck.
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate that. And then also that kind of covers the OTCs, the prescription meds. I'll start with one that's pretty popular with migraines. I know it was prescribed to my own family members who have had and dealt with migraines, and those are and you're gonna have to excuse me. I'm not a PhD like Dr. Bob and don't know the proper pronunciation of these. Feel free to correct me on any of these, but the triptans are the kind of first line of defense, especially with someone that may have occasional migraines. So it's not something you take daily. You just take it once you feel the migraines coming on, but you got to catch it early enough or it won't work. So the sumatriptans are popular. With that, a lot of drowsiness and you can get dizziness with that too, muscle weakness, nausea, dry mouth. I know with our son, when he would feel a migraine coming on, catch it early enough, he could take this particular prescription medication and then just go lay down and take a nap, basically try to sleep it off. You have the razatriptans as well, similar side effects, dizziness, drowsiness, fatigue, dry mouth, nausea. You even get chest pains with that occasionally. You got the number two in prescription category is the ergots, ERGOTS. And so you got the ergot triptans. Again, I'll put all these up on the Facebook group, Healthcare Disruptors Wellwave now, so that you can see all of these and all of the side effects. Dr. Bob, what do you know about the CG RPs, the inhibitors? You're on mute.
So I've really let go of my affiliation with the pharmaceuticals because my whole objective is to help people using natural interventions relieve their migraine headaches so that they don't have to think about what medications they're taking. So that's my whole thing. So I don't even comment on the different medications.
Yeah, well, not one thing I know you want to comment on, Bob. It was when Breck mentioned the thing about the triptan having to interrupt the headache early. That just leaped into my mind. Bob wants to get into his
Yes.
panic recognition and actions to take when you first feel it coming on. Not only so go ahead, Bob. Talk to that a little bit. What should someone do when they first sense that headache coming on?
When you talk about headaches, you want to understand, people would need to understand is that when headache symptoms are coming on, usually the first thing a person does is they say, uh-oh, this is a problem. This is trouble. How bad is this going to be? How long is it going to last? How's it going to mess up my day? How's it going to mess up my life, right? And that is the way they're looking at the future for their existence, which is going to include headache for sure. I call it the future vision. They have a corrupt future vision called I'm in trouble, right? So somebody who feels a headache symptom coming on doesn't say, oh, there it is. This is what I do, by the way. There it is. I feel like there might be a headache coming on. I congratulate myself. I take a breath and I congratulate myself for having recognized that the headache symptom may be coming on. It may be coming on full force. And then I create a new future vision called I'm headache free. This headache symptom that hasn't yet come on, but seems like it's going to come on, disappears, and I'm headache free, and I breathe, and I relax, and I make some changes because I want to tell everybody that there's two things that are required to make any changes. You need to recognize with new awareness that something is needed because a person's existing level of awareness is insufficient to make a change. Like if we don't have any new awareness or anything, we can't make any changes. If we feel a headache symptom coming on and we go, uh-oh, this is a problem. Oh, this is terrible. We're going to drive ourselves right into headaches. So we need recognition. We need new awareness of the right type. And then the second thing we need, because new awareness alone is not that helpful, and it can lead to suffering. Actually, it's like new awareness is, oh, heck, here comes the headache, right? This is a problem. But the second step in the process of change is an effective change strategy. There are many effective change strategies. I focus on a few that I know are tried and true. That's why I said if I feel a headache symptom that's coming on, the immediate thing I do is congratulate myself for having noticed that. And I take a breath and relax myself. And I create a new future vision called, I let go of the corrupt future vision. And the new future vision is, I'm headache free. This is fantastic. The what I felt a moment ago is disappearing really fast. And that's the way it's going to go. And I keep my breathing and relaxing. So that's one of the ways in which I can intervene I can interrupt, as you said, Tim, interrupt that automatic, I call it a stress reaction to the headache symptom that's coming on. Very, very important.
Yeah.
And how helpful have you, I know you alluded to it and you do it, so it must be helpful. How helpful have you found that for you and the people that you work with?
Yeah, it's well, I teach automatic pattern recognition and interruption from my system to everybody, because that's the change strategy. Automatic pattern recognition, because the automatic patterns which reside in the subconscious mind keep people stuck where they are, producing the same result that they don't want and wondering what's wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with any of us. The only thing that's going on is we're stuck in some kind of automatic pattern that resides in our subconscious mind. So I teach this to everybody, and it really is, it's amazingly effective, especially with people who have headache symptoms, because the headache symptoms I found are really easy for people to interrupt once they have the process of how to do it, how to recognize it, the symptoms coming on, and how to interrupt their previously automatic reaction to it, which drives them further into the headache. I've had people who I've worked with who get these 4-day migraines. They're in it for 4 days, and it's just horrible. I can't even imagine. And I've been able, through guiding them through the automatic pattern recognition interruption system process, to interrupt and I've done this over the phone with people that I've never even met, right? Who found out about me, they've contacted me, they want some help. So I've helped them interrupt that whole response to the migraine symptoms, even if they're in the middle of it. And there they go, they're out of it and they love it. It's incredible. So that works really well.
Okay. Now, and then one of the things we dialogue with, it brought to mind dialogue about, was where you had done some study work on, I think it was area where posture and alignment and things of that nature leading to headache. So I'm sure I know you coupled automatic pattern recognition and intervention with that, but talk a little bit about what came out of that study and other findings you found, because a little more preface that, as you know, Brett talked about, I applied keeping the diary for self-awareness, root cause. A lot of that root cause of headaches happens to be some of the posture and alignment and things of that nature. So Bob, take it more if you would.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So I did a clinical study years ago with chronic headaches, migraine headache and cervicogenic headaches. And there's other types, but those are two of the more prevalent ones. There's sinus headache and cluster headaches and others. But in terms of migraine headaches and cervicogenic headaches, I did a clinical study using a.
I'm sorry, Bob. What was the second type of headache?
There's cluster headaches and
right.
Okay, cervicogenic. So cervicogenic. So, by the way, so cervicogenic headaches are called cervicogenic because they originate in the cervical region of the spine. So it is speculated. Okay, when I think of headache, I say, okay, what's up? What's your symptom? I have a headache. Okay, I don't need to know if it's migraine or cervicogenic or cluster or sinus or whatever. I just want to know that they have a symptom. I go with symptoms, not diagnosis, because what we want to do always, all of us want to do this, all practitioners want to do this. We want to relieve the symptoms as fast as possible, right? And so this study we and I was working in the Department of Neurology at Henry Ford Health System, and had the physicians referring patients into my study, and we compared deep tissue manipulation for structural balancing, getting the posture aligned. So if somebody walked in with a high shoulder and a forward head, you would release the muscles in the front to allow the head to go back over the shoulders, which everybody who has a forward head posture should be understanding that they need to do that to get the head back. And then, of course, releasing the muscles that are holding the shoulder high and releasing the muscles that compensate to hold the shoulder low, which leads to a lot of frozen shoulders in people. So understanding, and there's all kinds of postural misalignments that go into this. And, you know, I'm fortunate enough that I'm having trained so much in this, I can spot these things in a couple of minutes. And if I watch somebody walk, I can really tell what's going on. But so, and we compared that to a light touch relaxation massage that was not designed to affect the tissues in a deep way, and it was just a relaxation massage. So that was I thought that this study is going to be incredible. The gentleman who conducted the neuromuscular therapy, Paul St. John, brilliant practitioner. He's in Florida in the Clearwater area. If you ever get a chance to get to his practice, it would be wonderful. He calls it neurosomatic education, neurosomatic therapy. He teaches neurosomatic education too. But he did this study. He flew up from Florida every week to do the study. And we had sessions done with people at 10 sessions once a week. And what was amazing to me, this has taught me so much. This trial was one of the fundamental things. It was actually my first clinical trial because I taught myself how to do them in Henry Ford Health System and carried them out. So the patients, I interviewed all the patients before they came into the study. They tracked all the things that Breck talked about, time, triggers, and especially time spent in migraine. And these people in cervicogenic, these people averaged between, the range was between 6 and 8 hours a day in headache, whether it was migraine or cervicogenic. Can you imagine being in a headache like that, 8 hours a day? It was a mind blower to me. And people from all walks of life, young, old, white, black, Asian, Latino. We had everybody, all kinds of people, different walks of life, retired, working. We even had a couple of students. We had everything in there, every type of person in there. And when I was interviewing them, what I was realizing is these people all are so different. They have different backgrounds, different histories. Their postures were different. Their way they moved was different. And I didn't know I hadn't created the automatic pattern recognition interruption system yet, because this study was critical to me understanding also about multimodal therapy. We had great results with this study. From the study, the deep tissue manipulation for structural balancing, we measured postural alignment before and after, relieved headache 50%. The time spent in headache was reduced 50%. Huge result, right? To go from 6 to 8 hours down to 3 to 4 hours in headache, compared to zero change in the relaxation massage group. And, but to me, I was so disappointed because, I go for symptomatic elimination without drugs. That's what I always go for. And anytime I can't get that, I'm disappointed, really. But at any rate, this study taught me that deep tissue manipulation for structural balancing, while important, was only one of several possible inputs. And so that's what got me into the whole notion that a unimodal therapy, meaning one therapeutic intervention, was unlikely to produce dramatic results and even elimination of a symptom, right? And so a multimodal approach is really important. That's what I'll say. I'll leave it at that in terms of using a multimodal approach in headache, which is what I do now, by the way.
Good. All right, thanks. Breck, anything come to mind from that?
Yeah, just that, there are so many different methods that I would hope people would try, right, before jumping right directly to medication that may have all of the side effects. And so kind of the whole purpose behind why I even got on TikTok to begin with was, hey, it's a lot of prescription medications that are doing great things out there, but when the side effects outweigh the benefits, you really need to look at doing something different. And so then that got me thinking, well, why not take a different approach even? Let's try something else that's more natural first before going immediately to a prescription medicine or even an over-the-counter. We see how many problems people are having with their stomachs because of, overtaking, over-the-counter medications. So
So
that's where I kind of got started on with TikTok.
appreciate it. A question on that, and then leading the comment for it. You often talk about when we talk about using drugs and medication prudently, making the right drugs. So one, I want you to take folks through the emerging field of pharmacogenetics on that. But one of the things that came to mind that pharmacogenetics would be interesting in on a comment if there's been any look at this part of it as well, is how does that give any indication of who's likely or not likely to have the side effects as well? So if you'll think if you have anything on that, I'd love to hear it. If not, then the other part of effectiveness of that testing, I'd love to hear your comment on as well.
Yeah, no, I would love to have one of our afternoons devoted to just pharmacogenomics, right? And get into the whole science behind it and bring in some experts, some of our PharmDs or other medical professionals that have experience with patients. But there's no better way to have a personalized medication therapy by identifying what that individual's patient, that individual patient's genetic makeup is and how they metabolize medications, because it could be the right medication that they've been prescribed. And those reports are so comprehensive. You've got it laid out, color coded. You've got your green medications, the ones that work with that specific patient and their genetic makeup and their DNA. You've got the yellow, proceed with caution. It may still work, but you could have some issues. And then you've got the medications in red, and those, of course, are the ones that just don't work with that patient. And so when you can identify it, simplify it that easy, then it also talks about the drug-drug interactions, right? This medication is okay as long as you're not taking these other medications. And so there's a whole list of them. So, customizing that approach, and back to the point I made earlier, it could be the right medication. Maybe it's the wrong dose. Maybe your metabolism is different than all of the patients that were tested on that during the drug trial. So you flush it through your system much faster than everyone else. So you've got to up the dose, or you are a slow metabolizer. And so maybe it's, you're getting too much of what you need. Even when I was put on a simple medication like omeprazole, the doctor immediately wanted to go to 20 milligrams. I'm like, let's start with 10 first. I've never been on this medication before. That would probably work just fine. And sure enough, it did. So, again, going back to being your own best patient advocate and speaking up and saying, hey, let's try something, a little less dosing, or let's try something else. Now, then once being on that medication long enough to know that it was doing more harm than good, I had to get completely off of it and take a more natural approach for the digestive issues.
Right. Yeah, people need to use common sense. That's the key. Common sense, and ask a lot of questions and be confident that you can ask any question you want, and it's the job of any practitioner to answer your question with some kind of answer, including I don't have any idea. It depends.
Right.
Yeah, and I like that we've re-stressed that again, and for for the audience, we did do something early on the community. We call it effective communications, and part of that was how do you communicate with your healthcare professional. So we continue to bring that up here because it is so important. But also, if you go back and take a look through, like I said, TikTok, go to Breck's profile. You'll see a pointer there to where to take a look at it. For the folks on Zoom, I put a link in where you can find past panel discussions there. But that part, Bob, you talked about don't be. I think still there's so many of. Can I kid you a little bit, Bob? Can you
Yeah, sure.
There's so many of your generation, which I'm probably part of. That
I'm trying to figure out which direction I go in.
Yeah, but there was like my old my wrestling coach, high school wrestling coach. I remember we were talking about it. He was going through. Yeah, he actually had two cancers. One was a prostate cancer. The other one was pancreatic. But I think he kind of defeated prostate. So it was probably during that one when he talked to me. He said, "Hey, people think it's tough. You just go in there and you just listen to what your doctor has to say, and you just do what your doctor has to say." That's so many. That's the mindset of so many where Yes, I think I go to my doctors because I have, I believe they're qualified, I believe they're skilled, but I think it ought to be a dialogue as to just talk about, you're putting me on this medication. Why is it necessary? What do I think can we take? What about this dosage? Can we, is this the right dosage? Or do we have to be at this amount? Having that dialogue, as you say, and I have actually found when they're, especially when someone has thought about the questions and looked at it a little bit, I have found, my medical team to be very, very receptive to that and kind of say, I'm so glad that someone is taking a proactive approach to their health, in on this. So I think, people should, might be surprised at how much their doctors want to have that dialogue and want people to have those intelligent conversation questions with them.
Yeah, that is so key because I think we as patients have conditioned providers to just go ahead and pull out the script pad, right?
Right.
We're a want it resolved immediately. There's got to be a medication for that. I want it to go away, and I don't want to take any personal responsibility. I have to do something different. I want the easy way out. We're a microwave society. We want everything instantly. And so yeah, doctors do appreciate that when someone steps back and says, "No, I want to take responsibility for my own health care here," and what would be some alternatives to immediately going to this, suggested medication that may be, because let's remember, it's the practice, it's not a perfect, it's, practicing medicine.
Right.
Because that one medication may be great for 1,000 patients, and you just happen to be one that it isn't great for. And it's usually the odds are the other way around because, only can positively affect maybe 30 to 50% of the patient population. The other 70% potentially could be getting no benefit from the medication.
Right. And then that just prompted me. I've got, like Bob's got his automatic pattern recognition. I've got my PEMF thing that's always hits me. And that prompted me that I've got to put it in that to talk about that pulse electromagnetic field therapy that I encourage people all to get familiar with because it has such a wide range of impact, and all three of us use it. And have that discussion with their physicians. As physicians have they heard about it, do they use it? And in a couple of regards directly tied to this, we talk about the medication. So yes, that genetic testing can also help define which ones are impactful and effective. But I will say that PEMF can make medications, the pharmacist that you like so much call it potentiate, can make that medication so much more effective through distribution, blood flow distribution, and then improves it down to capillary level directly to cells. It also enables the cells to function better, so they uptake it better. So what does that mean? You get that drug that you take, now you've got it genetically tested that it's appropriate or best, but also now you enabled your body to distribute it and uptake it as much. And it also holds the potential, where it's worked with a lot of physicians that are familiar with it, to be able to take less of the medication and thus decrease the exposure to the potential side effects. And then also it can help with some of the tension and some of the inflammation and even the structural things that Bob goes into. It can help with and impact those causes and root causes of it.
Yeah, that PMF is very important, and the fact that it can really accelerate blood flow through the smallest capillaries, get more oxygen to tissues, carry more toxins away. I mean, and also, have the cells more activated. That's fantastic. So I'm glad you brought that up, Tim.
Yeah. Dr. Bob and Tim, you guys are experts at this. And if there were only wellness centers around the country where you could go get pharmacogenomics and PEMF at the same place, that would be wonderful, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think somebody I know is working on that, and we have to pray and help that person get it done.
Brett, you want to say a little bit about that? I'm so excited about your project. You want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. We're super excited about that. We're just getting launched, but the whole idea is to have these wellness centers that are available to patients to come in, get personalized medication treatment. And we're working. This is a collaboration. It's a community care collaboration. So we're not having patients move away from their primary care provider. We want them to stay with their primary care providers. We want to support those providers and do some of the things that they don't have time to do. We have a shortage of PCPs, or primary care providers, in this country, and we want to help support those that are still here. And so we can provide these solutions at a neighborhood community pharmacy. So we already have about 19,000 or so community pharmacies across the country. The ultimate goal here would be to make wellness available to the masses in 10 minutes or less. And the only way we can accomplish that is through our independently owned community pharmacy network that we work with. So yeah, Brim Wellness is the name of the project. It's coming to a community pharmacy near you.
How many community pharmacies are there in the country, Breck? Do you know?
If you count the grocery store pharmacies, there's about 20,000. The true independents, probably somewhere around 15, 16,000. That would be the, mom and pops, or they own 2 or 3 locations. They're unfortunately, a lot of them are closing their doors. The profit margin for dispensing medication is gone down and down every year. Used to be 36%. Now they're lucky if they're getting 3 to 5% profit margin. So they need the additional revenue streams that the clinical services will bring them as well. So not only are we improving patient engagement and having that personalized medication therapy approach to making sure that the patient is getting absolutely what is the very best thing for them, but it's also bringing in insurance billing revenue to the pharmacy. Offsets the cost of a health plan too, because if somebody isn't able to go get in to see their primary care provider, where do they go? They go to an urgent care or to an emergency room. Those costs are inflated by 20 to 30 to 40%, 200% if you go to the emergency room. So we can really help with the overall burden of the health system that's paying for those visits.
Fantastic. I love the project, Breck. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we tell people if they wanted to ask questions, they could put them in the chat? I don't think we mentioned
We
that.
did not, but yes, if anybody has some questions at this time, or you can either come on and ask them out loud here, put them in the chat, whatever, and we'll spend a little time trying to address them. And to our Zoom and to our TikTok audience and guests, what we normally do is about that time. We've actually gone over it a little bit. We usually try to go about 25, 30 minutes, a little dialogue, discussion, guided there. And happy to have that questions included even in that portion. But then we also would like to stick around for another 20 to 25 minutes. If anybody's got any questions that they want to bring up on the topic of the day or something they heard in the past. And even in the future, because I have to thank one of our audience members for what we're going to talk about next week. And she's coming right on with the question now. Go ahead, Diana.
Hey, yeah, thank you. This is always so exceptionally informative. Thank you so much. I was just curious that to know if there are any specific foods or habits that trigger the headaches that somebody should be aware of in terms of their own physiology, in terms of what they could possibly be eating, that then of course they see something being triggered by that. Does that happen a lot? And I was just curious if there's a sensitivity to food that triggers headaches.
I would say absolutely. You have some foods that are more, they create inflammation, and that's where pain comes from. Yeah. So we had talked a little briefly about diet and adjusting diet and including, foods that are high in, magnesium. So magnesium rich foods like spinach and almonds, avocados, spinach, for me, but the almonds and avocados all day long. That's where I get my magnesium. I usually put too much salad dressing on my spinach just to make it taste better. And so then I'm defeating the purpose. But yeah, there's definitely some benefits for reducing inflammation, right? And other dietary adjustment could be getting more omega-3, your fatty acids from fish and flaxseed, walnuts are good source.
Yeah, but what I would add to that, Diana, this is why I kind of was searching when you say is it common, or there frequent ones? Certainly there are things that are allergies and that people are allergic to that also kind of trigger headaches. But that where, to me, it ties back so much to what Breck was saying earlier, kind of because it's so often, and especially in taste, it's so personalized to people. So you kind of track it, because there are certain tastes, there are textures that trigger things and people. So the taste, particularly to your food, but there's also odors, certain perfumes. Smoke triggers headaches in people.
Mhm.
So you've got to, and a certain perfume is not going to trigger it for me, but it might trigger it for somebody else, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So I can't really think of things that said that, these are the 10 most common tastes or smells that do it, but certainly there are. And so one's got to kind of track that for themselves and see what happens on a tailored basis.
Yeah, caffeine, too much caffeine, not enough caffeine. If you,
Oh,
yeah, alcohol, that's another one to avoid, right? Because that's obviously going to have the potential to bring on headaches.
You're on mute, Bob.
Thanks. Yeah. What Breck talked about with tracking headaches, it's important to keep track of when they come on, what is going on at the time. I just want to address for a minute how static and movement patterns can affect headaches. So we're sitting in front of our computers now for 45 minutes. We haven't gotten up, we haven't walked around, we haven't done anything. Some of us are looking at our computers like this. We're trying to see what's going on. Our heads forward, are getting tension in our neck and shoulders, and that always happens. And by the way, that forward head posture, wow, when I do that, it really affects me. That's what leads to people being on walkers later in life, that forward head posture, also looking down when they walk. So it's really important to ergonomically have yourself situated properly when you're sitting. Knowing how to sit and stand is really important, because that's a couple of hundred movements every day. And it's a big one for the back. Can be problematic for the back when people don't sit and stand properly, which is why I teach that as part of the repetitive movements of daily living. Walking, running, stairs, up and down, bending and reaching, sitting and standing, all of those repetitive movements, towel drying, brushing teeth. It's all patterned, and you never know which of these patterns is going to jump out and cause these problems. So for somebody who's prone to headaches, they have to be careful about all of their ergonomic positions that they're in, with, especially when sitting at the computer or looking at their phone and doing their texting, things like that.
Right. Right. So you got the positioning there, and then Diana, I kept racking my brain as I looked at the, in two of my careers. I'm on career 2.5. So in one career, I did home care for the elderly and operate in 3 states. Career 3 now, it's my job to help people live and perform better for longer as part of that, and bring high tech from career 1 to some of the low tech, so high tech but natural PEMF and other things to the field now. So, but racking what I found in that home care environment, and to your point, yeah, I would see people, and that I was usually dealing with people between 79 and 90 in that, but I think it applies to other age group. I would see people getting headaches from eating aged cheese, from certain foods that were high in nitrates or high in MSG, other processed food. Even some chocolates would trigger off some people. So those are some categories. But I still come back to that. So yes, food can trigger it, taste can trigger it, but it can be very, very individualized. So it comes back to Breck's thing and what we talk about self-awareness. And this even falls into Bob's favorite thing of automatic pattern recognition. If I find that every time I have a bite of chocolate, I have a headache, I feel a headache coming on, well, I'm going to tap myself on my shoulder and say, thank you, I recognize
That's
it.
awareness.
And then I'm going to move on.
That's right. New awareness of the right type.
New awareness.
Step 1 in the change process, new awareness of the right type. Thank you, Tim.
Right. Then I go into my thought, what I call it, my thought displacement. I'm gonna say, instead of headache, oh dang, I'm gonna say, oh headache, yes. I congratulate myself on that. Boy, and I'm gonna assign what I call emotional alignment. Instead of saying, oh dang, I'm gonna say, great, I've got a chance now to destroy that headache and master it and go on. But Diana, I do want to thank, as I was mentioned, I want to thank you, because our next week topic is because of you. You brought up water and the salt water last discussion. So we decided that that we want to do a discussion on water, this tap water versus alkaline water versus distilled water, and et
Right.
cetera, and what's really
We know.
the differences. So that'll be
Bottled
next week's
water.
discussion on that.
And
Yeah.
also the importance of hydration, which is
Right.
unbelievably important. It's so important.
Yeah.
Super important.
Yeah, so that's why I want to encourage part, we're building a community here. This is a community, and the community, we have to serve the community right. We've got our mission, our thoughts on it, but we want to hear from you, whether it's TikTok, whether it's the Healthcare Disruptors group, WellWave Now group on Facebook, whether it's our Zoom, as to, what's important to you about this wellness. What do you want to hear about and press on? And also, if you enjoyed or got some benefit from this, please do spread the word and invite somebody else to come join in. And if you've got other providers that you know of that are doing a good job and really bringing wellness to America, we'd love to hear about them and find a way to work with them and help them out a little bit as well.
Yep. Dan, did you have another question or comment?
No, I'll lower my hand here. There we go.
No, you're good. Yeah, I just want to make sure we didn't miss something there. But yeah, sure, appreciate everybody that's joined live on TikTok and here in the interactive podcast on Zoom as well. We do need to figure out how to get Dr. Bob and Tim connected on Zoom when the camera is on us all. It interferes with their algorithm. They have AI that tunes in and they're not perfect, right? They don't know what's human and what's not. So they thought it was a recording and kicked us off the air for a while. So apologize for those that were listening in. But when we do have the camera set up correctly, we had hundreds of people that were tuned in at one time. So we'd like to recapture that group again. Yeah, but appreciate everybody being here and anxious to answer any other questions. We've got 10 more minutes left if there's anyone that has any additional questions.
Yep, and I won't mention the audience member by name, but I want to shout out one person who said here, says, thanks so much. I learned some more about headaches and to share it with the daughters-in-laws. And I certainly would to bless us, and I certainly want to receive that blessing. And so thank you. And that's great feedback. That's what we want to know, that we're on target and really delivering value to the people that are joining us and listening to us.
Yeah.
Also, I threw my contact information in the chat. If somebody wants to have follow-up conversations, about headaches or anything else, chronic pain, they can contact me.
Yep. And everyone on TikTok can find Dr. Bob at the WellWave Now Healthcare Disruptors Facebook group as well. The link is in my bio here.
Take care, everybody. Thanks.
Bob,
Really
appreciate it.
appreciate you
Thanks,
here.
Dr. Bob. Good to see you. We'll see you next week.
Next week.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
Talking about water.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Come join us next week. I invested in one of those little water processors that puts the hydrogen in it. So it's a hydrogen water.
Structured water, that's right. I forgot. I got to make sure we talk about the structured water in there
Yep,
too.
structured water.
Alkaline, tap, mineral, salt, all of it. We gotta go through that.
Yeah. So many benefits to your circulatory system as well. So not only the PEMF, but PEMF, but also getting some structured water into your system. But water needs some natural minerals too. So we'll talk about that next week.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks everyone for being here, and make sure that you catch us next week. We'll be live here on TikTok and Zoom.